The writings of Abraham, chapter 77. At the end of 7 years, Yahweh visited me, and he said unto me, Baruch art thou, Abram, servant of the Most High, for thy joy shall be great in my mansion with this multitude which thou hast brought unto me. Wherefore thy name shall no more be called Abram, but Abraham shalt thou be called, which is by interpretation, father of a multitude. Moreover, thy wife Sarai shall no longer be called by that name, but Sarah shall she be called, which signifieth a queen. For Sarah have I chosen and appointed to be thy queen of queens, for from her shall issue the promised seed, even him who shall be thine heir. Behold, the day cometh when the seed of Ham shall again rule in this land. And at that day thy seed shall be in bondage to them. But I will raise up a prince from among the Mitzrites, who shall lead them out of bondage, and they shall inherit the land of Canaan, even that land which I have promised unto thee and to thy seed after thee for an everlasting inheritance. Moreover, from the loins of thine hair shall proceed Hamashiach, even the bane of Elohim, who shall walk upon the earth ministering to the poor and lowly, who shall be lifted up that the price might be paid for the original sin of Adam and for the sins of all mankind, that all who will believe on his name and receive his ordinances and keep his commandments should not perish but inherit everlasting life. Moreover, in the last days I will raise up out of the loins of thine hair a choice seer, through whom the fullness of my berakah shall be restored to the earth, and all things shall be restored as in the beginning. For upon him shall rest the kehunah of his fathers, and he shall commence the organization of that qadosh order which was in the beginning of the world, which shall be consummated before the bane of Elohim shall walk again upon the earth. These promises are thine, my son, and I say unto thee, thou shalt be exalted and dwell with me in the mansion of my father. Now take thy people and return into the land of Canaan, for there have I a mission for thee, and there shall the promises come to pass in thy behalf. The writings of Abraham, chapter 78. When I had received this word of Yahweh, and he had departed from me, I went unto Pharaoh and told him that I must depart from his realm, as Yahweh had a work for me to do in the land of Canaan. Though he was loath to see me go, Pharaoh bowed to the will of Elohim and appointed men from his own bodyguard to escort me to the borders of Mitzrayim. And he gave me gifts of cattle and silver and gold and fine cloth and precious jewels of every kind. The writings of Abraham, chapter 79. So I went up out of Mitzrayim, and Lot accompanied me, who had taken 3 wives while in Mitzrayim, namely Yennefer, daughter of Eleazar of Damascus, Deborah, daughter of Cumin, who had come out of the city of Ur, and Asterah, daughter of Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim. The writings of Abraham, chapter 80. Traveling slowly and stopping often to camp upon our way, we eventually reached Bethel, where yet stood an altar that I had built there at the first. I restored to it its perfect form, and offered sacrifices thereon to the Most High Elohim. And I called there upon the name of Yahweh of all the world, and offered praise to the name of Elohim, and barakah Elohim, and gave thanks before him for all the possessions bestowed upon us, and for the many souls we had won in Mitzrayim, and for having brought us back safely from that land. The writings of Abraham, chapter 81. Now after our departure from Mitzrayim, a faction arose among our people upon seeing the great wealth which Pharaoh had entrusted to us, for they desired property which they could call their own. Lot also was among them, which thing grieved me greatly, but seeing they would not be reconciled, we gave unto them a portion of the common property, and they departed from us under Lot's direction, and settled in the valley of the Jordan River. There they went from place to place as their flocks needed pasture, until they reached the city of Sodom, where they mingled with the inhabitants and became one with them. Lot also built a house in Sodom and settled there. But of all that company that went out from us, only Lot maintained his integrity and did not violate the covenants of his kehunah, nor bow to mighty ones. Nevertheless, Lot did not walk perfectly in the way of the fathers, for he dwelt not among the people of Elohim, but built his own house, and he coveted his own property, that he should govern it rather than holding all things common with the Kodashim. Nevertheless, Lot did continue to serve Yahweh, and Yahweh loved him and his family, and his property grew very large. But I was grieved in my heart that Lot had parted from me, for he had stood at my right hand and had been instructed in a better way. The writings of Abraham, chapter 82. Meanwhile, I with my people dwelt in Bethel, where we did worship Yahweh our Elohim after the order of the ancients, and did strive diligently to establish the Kodesh order of Elohim among us in ever-increasing perfection. Wherefore we did banish from among us all contention, all covetousness, all selfishness, and we were of one heart and of one mind, and dedicated in all our service unto Yahweh, and held all things common, for no man called anything his own. The writings of Abraham, chapter 83. One night Elohim appeared to me in a vision and said, Go up to the top of Chazor, and lift up thine eyes, and gaze eastward, and westward, and southward, and northward, and behold all this land, for behold, unto thee and to thy seed after thee shall I give it for an everlasting inheritance. The next day I ascended Chazor as Yahweh had commanded me, and I gazed upon all the land, from the river of Mitzrayim unto Lebanon and Senir, from the great sea unto Haran, the whole area of Seir as far as Kadesh, the whole of the great wilderness which lieth east of the Haran ran, and the region of Senir as far as the Parath. And as I beheld the land, Yahweh my Elohim spake in my heart, saying, Baruch Abraham, I have chosen thee to stand at the head of a multitude. Wherefore unto thee and to thy seed after thee I will give this land, even all that thine eye beholdeth, that ye may possess it forever. And I shall multiply thy seed like the dust of the earth. For even as no man can count the dust of the earth, so shall thy seed be without number. Rise up now and compass this land. Behold the length of it and the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee and to thy seed after thee forever. The writings of Abraham, chapter 84. Even so, I, Abraham, descended from the high place and set out to behold all the land. I commenced at the river of Mitzrayim and came to the shore of the lake, beside which I traveled until I reached the mountain of the ox. Thence I turned from the great lake which is by Sodom, and walked across the breadth of the land until I reached Parath. Thence I journeyed even unto the sea of reeds, which I followed unto its head. Thence I went onward to the river of Mitzrayim again, having compassed the whole land according to the command of Yahweh. When I had completed my journey, I bowed down and praised Yahweh, and returned safely unto my family, where I found everyone well. The writings of Abraham, chapter 85. Not many days thence, under the direction of Yahweh, I departed from Bethel, and settled in the plains of Mamre, on the northeast of Hebron, and there I built an altar, and offered an offering unto the Most High Elohim, and dedicated that land unto Yahweh. And I held a great feast unto Yahweh, for the time of the Pesach had come, and together with all the men of my household invited Mamre, and Aram, and Eshcol, my friends, who were wanderers in the land as we were, and who had joined the believers in the Most High Elohim into the solemn assembly. And after this all my people ate and drank together with me before Yahweh. The writings of Abraham, chapter 86. At this feast, the Ruach of Yahweh fell upon me, and laying aside my garments, I danced before Yahweh, and sang unto Yahweh a new song, saying, Baruch art thou, O Yahweh, who hast given unto man knowledge of thy ways, that he might understand thy truths and see thine abundant mercies. Baruch art thou, O Elohim, who art full of compassion and favor, for the greatness of thy power, the abundance of thy truth, the profusion of thy mercies over all thy works. Rejoice the soul of thy servant in thy truth, and through thy righteousness make me clean before thee. Baruch art thou, O Yahweh, for thou hast placed in the mouth of thy servant the sacred words of power, that I might stand as thy minister continually, that I may confer thy favor upon thy children, and that I myself may return to thy presence. The writings of Abraham, chapter 87. Sarah also rose up, full of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh, and danced and sang before Yahweh. And this is the song of Sarah. In thee, O Yahweh, will my soul be raised up, for thou hast bestowed upon me thy favor, whereby I am restored to thy presence. For I have entered into thine Kodesh house, and received the sacred rites of thy presence. Surely in my tent at night I will sing songs of joy unto Yahweh, as I am overshadowed by the Kehunah, and lifted up in the foreshadowing of eternity. Surely in receiving thy Ruach, through the overshadowing of the Kehunah, I have received deliverance. Wherefore, in the midst of thy people, those who reverence thine Kodesh name, I will praise thee and esteem thy name forever. The writings of Abraham, chapter 88. My wife Kedar also arose and proceeded to dance and sing before Yahweh, and her song was, Baruch Yahweh, O my soul, exalt his name among the people. I will praise thee, O Yahweh, upon my bed, when the wellsprings of my joy are opened up. I will praise thee at all times and seasons. When the sun riseth upon the earth, I will praise thine Kodesh name. When in its ordered course day reacheth its turning point at the meridian, I shall not fail to praise thee. Again in the evening, when the daylight departeth, I will marvel at thy wonders and esteem thy name. The writings of Abraham, chapter 89. Then rose up my wife Yehudith, who danced and sang, saying, Praise Yahweh, who hath shown me the wonders of his ways. For as I lay upon my bed and wrapped in the ecstasies of the Ruah Ha'Qodesh, when the Ruach rushed into me, I saw the vision of the Almighty, and heard that which is unlawful to be spoken. Yea, O Yahweh, thou hast visited me, and I have heard thy wondrous secret, and I know that it is true. Through thine Ruah Ha'Qodesh, through the rites of thine Kodesh Kehunah, through the esteeming inner vision to which thou didst open my mind in the moment of passion, thou hast caused a spring of knowledge to well up within me, a fountain of strength and power, of loving kindness and esteem in my Elohim. Thou hast put an end to the darkness of the world in me, and the splendor of thy esteem hath become in me an eternal light. Wherefore I will praise thy name forever, and give myself unto thee. The writings of Abraham, chapter 90. When Yehudith had finished her song, all the congregation, being filled with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, arose to their feet and began to dance and sing and praise Yahweh and to Nevuah in his name. Some saw Kodesh messengers in our midst, and others saw the Shamayim opened and beheld Elohim seated upon his throne, and all were filled with his Ruach and shouted praises to Yahweh in joyousness until dawn. Then we all rose up before Yahweh and praised his name for this great outpouring, and worshipped him all that day. And we rejoiced in the favor of Yahweh our Elohim.